I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar.
Yeah, I can tweak it all, but I'm just not.
I wish it sounded like this in real life. Maybe I'd be more successful.
Taller.
Yeah.
Voice mellifluous, mate. Like mellow and honey, you know.
Yeah.
Alrighty, now I've got a few questions.
Yes.
So, Marcus, welcome to the podcast.
Great
Thanks
to be
for
here.
getting up pretty much at your normal time, but a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Thanks for making me a coffee. I don't normally have a coffee at...
Yeah.
What is the time? 5:30.
Yeah, well, yeah, I try and get a coffee into our guests' hands pretty quickly.
And a very good long black at that, by the way.
Yeah, and plus that's one of the joys of being a barista and coming to work, knowing that you can just walk straight over to the coffee machine and pretty much plug yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's real good.
Perks of the job.
Yeah. Hey, so Marcus, now you're a business coach. And
That's what they call me.
Yeah, so just introduce yourself. How many years have you been doing it for?
Yeah.
Because you're originally from a marketing background, and you kind of made this crossover, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you started off with, was it Action?
Yeah, still using their coaching system, actionCOACH. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I really left high school with no idea what to do. Like I think it was maybe 2 weeks before I left high school, I walked into the atrium at CPIT.
Yeah.
With my best mate, and we were looking at the brochures on the stand.
Yeah.
And there was one that had a bunch of gold coins on it, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. And it was the Commerce Department brochure.
Yeah.
And so I was reading through that, and I was like, oh, this looks all right. I mean, I guess there's worse things you could do, like get a business degree. Or I think at that point I enrolled in I did enroll in a degree, but I didn't even know what a degree or a diploma was.
No.
So yeah, I started there, and then a lecturer actually was like, oh, you're in the wrong place, you need to go to university. So I transferred from CPIT to university, and then finished a commerce degree, and then decided to stay on and do a science degree in psychology, because I thought that would help with business and management. So that was kind of my entry into that, and then worked for almost a decade in marketing management roles.
Mm-hmm.
And my jiu-jitsu coach actually was, we were chatting after class one day, and he was like, oh, have you heard of this guy Brad Sugars? And I thought, no, sounds like a stripper.
Yeah.
Looked him up, and I actually, when I first listened to him, I couldn't stand it, because he's an Australian via Las Vegas, so you can imagine what he sounds like. So for a Kiwi, it's not an endearing accent.
No. And that kind of energy level was pretty intense as well.
It's hectic, totally.
Yeah.
It's just not the Kiwi way.
No, not at all.
And so I watched that video, and then I actually switched it off. I was like, man, that's just too much. It's not my style. And then I came back to it, because I knew my jiu-jitsu coach was going to ask me if I'd watched it.
Oh, classic.
So I came back to it, watched it again, and then I was like, man, this guy actually, he knows like what he's talking about. The essence of what he's talking about is awesome. It's just the packaging that I don't like. And so then I started chatting backwards and forwards, and I really got to a point in my career we had 2 young kids, and we had a choice really to, like, do we move to Auckland? Do I take that next career step up where it's going to be a massive commitment of time, bigger than I was? And I was like, no, I think I want to do something different, go in a different direction. And went and did some training in Australia, and within 30 minutes of being in the room, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I've been
Cool.
looking for.
Man, well,
And
it's pretty fortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
that really is fortunate. You know, some people never kind of find that thing that drives them and inspires them and energizes them, you know. So that was pretty cool that happened.
Yeah, I think for me it was a and I think for everyone it's a massive thing, right? The work we do is such a big part of our lives, and so if 40 hours a week of our work doesn't feel meaningful or purposeful, then life becomes a challenge. And it's definitely something I'd been kind of searching for. So I feel really grateful to be able to live the cliche, although I don't I think there's definitely days where it does feel like work.
Oh yeah,
for sure. But most days are for me.
So what does a day look like for you? Is it kind of you've obviously built up a bunch of clients over how many number of years? Like 3 or 4 or 5?
Yeah, four just over 4 years.
Yep.
I started in February 2018, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, we've got Sophia on our team who you've met,
right.
and my wife works in the business as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm the main coach. So Mondays for us are planning, admin, setup days, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I coach, and then Fridays tidy up. Tidy up day, clean up all the mess I've made during the week. So that's kind of our rhythm, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is just lots of people back to back.
So what is that? Is it Brad Sugars? What are they actually? Is it a kind of like a template? Is it a kind of a school of thought? How does that?
It's Brad J. Sugars.
Bradley J. Sugars.
Oh, right. Sorry.
If you move to America, you have to have the middle name. So I'd be Marcus M. Mark. I don't even know what middle name is. Marcus W. Short.
Oh yeah.
You'd be.
Sorry, I had to think. David J. Durrant.
Oh, that's strong. David J. Durrant.
David J. Durrant's the difficult one to say. Normally, I would say DJ Durrant.
Okay.
DJ.
What's the J for?
James.
I was hoping for something more exciting.
No.
David
and what's this American? Americanism. No, I'm Milton Charles Kirk.
Milton C. Kirk. See,
that's good. That's a good one as well.
Very good.
Yeah,
not too bad
love
either,
it.
eh?
Yeah,
Milton
that
C.
sounds
Clark.
like a cult leader.
What's this?
Or a psychologist,
What's this? I might find my spot. What's this whole middle name Americanism thing?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I just think it makes.
Sorry, I'm just going to switch off a fan. Carry on, Marcus.
Go for it. Maybe it just makes you sound more important, right? Like if you're Davis Jr. the third.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you met a Kiwi with a 3 after their name?
That's right. No. Yep.
Yeah, never. Yeah.
Maybe it's I don't know. That's just my theory.
So what is?
So you were talking about Bradley J.
Sugars.
Yeah. So it's. I would say it's like it's a framework to base the coaching off. So you know how an accountant, all accountants, well not all of them, but most of them now will use Xero as a platform. Mm-hmm. So you know that if you're going to generate a profit and loss statement, it's going to come out of Xero in a particular way. You can access it in a certain way. actionCOACH is similar to that in terms of coaching. So if I'm coaching on team, then I'll probably be coaching using the same formula as a coach in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
The way that I'll do that will be different because I think different, talk different.
Yeah.
But the content will largely be the same. And and it's obviously evolved over the years in terms of how what Brad started off with was 5 numbers that drive your business's profit.
Oh yeah.
And his background was in accounting, and then it's evolved from that simple set of 5 numbers, which he travelled around the world talking about, to us. Like this, the system is huge now. There's hundreds of hours of video. There's dozens and dozens of documents on various areas of the business. So that's obviously evolved. It didn't start out like that, but
I mean, that in that type of business, success is going to be I suppose in any business, success is going to be the key for what kind of brings concepts like that to the top. And that one has obviously risen for a reason. Like, it's popular and it's successful for a reason, right?
Yeah, and I think there's this, or Elon Musk has kind of not pioneered, but popularized is probably more the phrase, the idea of first principles.
Oh, right.
And you know, in business, there's, with everything you learn, there's you can boil it down to some principles, and those principles can help you understand something at 90% of something at a core level.
Oh, okay.
And that's what Brad's done really well over the years, is take business is a big beast, right?
Yeah,
but
it's
he's
complex.
taken it and boiled it down. And actually, you know, the first session I had with some of the coaches in Australia, the thing that blew me away was that I'd been to university and spent so much money and time learning, and then at the time I was in an organisation where we had almost $1 million marketing budget, and whilst we were doing a lot of things technically well, we actually had some first principles missing. And some of the basic questions, like I remember one of the coach asking me what our conversion rate was, which is a pretty simple question, and I was like, I don't actually know, because in our business we were so disconnected. Our sales team and our marketing team were so disconnected that those numbers weren't reported accurately. We could find it out, and this the thing I often hear with business owners. They go, "Oh yeah, I can find that out." But that's totally different to knowing what it is.
Yeah.
Because if you can you guys could find out what temperature your coffee machine's running at, but if you don't actually see the number,
well, I can find out about oblique colour theory if I want.
Yeah.
Well, who can't?
Tell me about that.
Just look it up. Well, I don't know, but I can look it up.
Yeah.
What is the conversion rate, Marcus? What is that?
What's the conversion rate?
What is that?
Yeah, so the conversion rates in most businesses will be how many inquiries they convert into customers or leads. So, you know, if 10 people walk in the door, do 10 buy a coffee? Usually there's one that walks out in most businesses in some way, shape or form. And so, you know, if you've got a bucket of water and you've got a bunch of holes in it, what's the point in just pouring more leads in? If they're just dropping out. So from a coaching perspective, that's one of the first places that I'll go, because you can get massive improvements in a business just by improving the sales process and ensuring that less leads drop out of that bucket. For you guys, it's different because I imagine most people walk in here, and if they walk in, they go, "Oh yeah, it's nice food. Milton's good looking. Let's buy something."
Just projection, mate.
It is. I guess it is slightly different, but
nonetheless, the same.
Totally.
Same drivers in your business, my business.
To a greater or less degree. And
the numbers, the numbers might be different, but the drivers are all the same.
Exactly. No, it is quite cool how they've reduced that all down and stuff into these things. So you call them kind of first principles.
Yeah, that's how I think about them, is their principles to provoke a conversation. And I think, business coaching in general is I don't even like the term.
Oh, right.
Because it's for two reasons. One, because every time I say that I'm that, someone's got a bad experience to share.
Oh, yeah.
Which is,
But hey,
thing.
Imagine how many people have had a bad coffee. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. That's fair. But I guess the thing for me is that I'm never coaching a business. Like this is a
so it's people.
It's a person.
Yeah.
You're a person who runs a business. So I'm not coaching the business. The business doesn't walk into my office.
No.
The person does.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes the business part of what we do is really freaking simple. Like you could get almost anyone walk in here and tell you 5 ways you could make your business better. But whether you implement those strategies or not will be down to this and these.
So how long did it take you to kind of realise that natural
Pretty
fact,
straight away.
you needed a couch in the office?
Yeah. Well, ironically, I actually do have one of those in my... I've got the classic Le Corbusier black psychotherapist.
Classic.
What do they call that? A chaise lounge?
Chaise lounge or something.
Chaise lounge.
Something like
that thing.
Yeah.
I've got that.
Cool. So you're prepared.
Yeah, no one's actually been brave enough to lie on it though, so apart from me.
Oh, I'd be straight onto it.
Yeah. But yeah, straight away, because I entered coaching. I think you have to be a little bit crazy to start a business in the first place. Even if you don't know it at the time. Just if you take 100 people, most of them do not have the courage to start a business.
Dave, case in point, you.
Yeah. Courage is a good word to use.
And crazy.
And crazy.
Crazy, yep.
And like most things, if you knew how much work it was going to be, you'd never do it.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, kids.
But it is I don't know. It's that risk-reward kind of proposition, I suppose. And, different people have different kind of drivers and stuff like that. And maybe they've got different, they're looking at different outcomes. I do think it's kind of crazy. I've heard it sort of described as setting sail, like going to sea on a boat and perhaps not knowing how to sail. And I suppose the vast majority of business owners, we don't really know what we're getting into until we kind of jump on the boat
till it's too late.
Wave at everyone on the shore.
and then everyone looks from the shore.
They're all pointing, there's a storm just behind you.
It's a Titanic, mate.
Or they're going, man, look at that guy out there on his boat. He must have a Lamborghini parked in his driveway and be loving life. And
he's having fun, that guy.
Working 10 hours a week.
Yeah, no, I live on the boat. And I have to catch the fish and eat them.
And I got blood under my fingernails and I smell like and that. So I think for me, that learning of this is actually more of a people game than because there's kind of two. I'll finish that thought. Was straight away because I quickly identified. Hey, look, I'm experienced enough and savvy enough to go and to sit down with a business owner and see some opportunities for change. And anyone, like I said, anyone can do that reasonably easily if they're smart and they've been around business for a bit.
Yeah.
And so I would have these sessions with clients and I'd be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. We build it out. And then week 1, they don't do the plan. And that was like, what? What do you mean you didn't do it? But we talked about it. We outlined all the steps.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, things came up and I got busy. And so week 1, I learnt that. But in terms of the human element, but week 1, I wasn't good at that. Now I'm very good, I would say, at shifting behaviours.
Yeah.
Because I've learned that that's the game.
Yeah.
We're not in I'm actually, and there's different coaches work in different ways, but for me personally, I'm in the behaviour change game.
Yeah. So that leads us to, I noticed that you were offering 3 programs, so business coaching, accountability, that's the overall umbrella, but there's the accountability program and behavioural intelligence.
Yeah.
So the accountability is obviously holding the business owners to account for, the things that you talk about and plan. To these are some steps that you can take to improve whatever it is, and then somehow sort of holding them to account. How do you do that with just like threats or? Yeah,
mainly. Well, I always threaten my clients, like, if you don't do what you say you're gonna do. I've trained jiu-jitsu for 6 years, so I'm just gonna choke you out, or break your arm.
You could hurt them beforehand. Yeah.
You choose the arm or the neck. So the accountability program came out of COVID, because what I realized in the first lockdown was that there was 2 kind of groups of people. There was the ones that were like, yay, this is the first holiday I've had in 6 years and I don't need to feel bad about it, or however long they've been in business.
Yeah.
And they were like, just radio silence, let's not do anything. And then there was another group of people that were like, we want to crack on and do stuff and make our business better. And the ones that wanted to crack on, they were lacking community and a rhythm to get a time to get stuff done. And so I was like, well, how do we kind of solve this problem? And there's a book called I actually forget what it's called, but it's by the Basecamp founders, which is a software platform. And they talk about how this software teams work in 6-week cycles, and they do 6 weeks on and then 2 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, all through the year. So
like actually they're working 6 weeks solid, or they're just kind of working 5 days a week for 6 weeks, and then they
they design a product. So in software, obviously, you can't make all the improvements all at once.
No, right.
And so they'll make a particular improvement over a 6-week period and then stop, and then shape up their next 6-week project,
cool.
And then complete that, then so shape up the next one.
So it's just a kind of a 6-week cycle, I see.
Yeah, so cool. they're not... but what it creates in terms of a rhythm is you're not always on. And that's often what we do as human beings, is we try and go 100s all the time. It doesn't work.
No.
You need to cycle off, just like we have weekends. That's why you don't have 7 days a week of work. You have 2 days off, and then 5 days on, and then 2 days off.
It's just kind of a catch-up, allows us to breathe and stuff like that. It's a bit like a Sabbath, Yeah,
it's just the Sabbath principle.
Yep.
Work and rest and getting that rhythm right. But so what... one of the biggest challenges that every client that I work with has, and it's probably the first one mentally, is shifting the way they think about time. Because the way they're thinking about time currently, and the things they're putting in in those blocks of time, is getting them the results that they're getting up until this point.
Yes, so, which probably isn't very good. Yep.
Well, oftentimes it is good, but it's not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
And so a simple way to deal with the first challenge, which is actually doing. Are
you able to share with us that secret?
How we're thinking about time?
Yeah.
So the simplest way to think about it is, as human beings, we're wired to think about and respond to things that are urgent.
Right.
So if someone lights a fire in the corner of the office, we're out, like, or the cafe, we're out, like, we're gone, right?
So it's our survival.
Yeah, it's the fight-flight reflex, right? It kicks in the moment that something stimulates your brain to say, do something right now. And so that could be the ding on the door, the phone ringing. Oftentimes, if you're in a trade business, the phone is like crack cocaine for the tradie, because they're like, mate. Phone rings, bing, yep, g'day.
The Jehovah's Witnesses coming around, you like dive for the door to get your door shut.
Yeah, someone's walking out the driveway, quick. And if you're in an office, it's the bing of an email. And so we just get into these patterns where we are responding to urgent stuff all the time. And that's fine. All of us need to do that. Like, if you guys never made a coffee, well, you're not making money.
Yeah.
But if we never move out of that cycle of responding to urgent things, then it's like pouring fuel into the engine or into into your car, but never actually stopping to tune the engine. And so that's often the cycle we get in with businesses. Like, we just quick, go get some more fuel, put more fuel in, more fuel.
Yeah.
But we never actually stop and go, what would happen if we changed the tires on this thing?
Yeah. And that's primarily how we perceive time when we're in that and when we're caught up in that moment.
Yes.
Of just go. We're perceiving time a little bit differently. So you sort of you take the client back a step and you sort of explain that out to them, what you just explained them. And
I mean, there's levels so that's kind of the principle is that your future is created when you're not in responding to urgent items. It's
that's cool.
Created when you actually step into that space where something isn't urgent, but it is important.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of your future is created. I mean, obviously we don't really know the future, but generally speaking, like, planning for the future is still important. Yeah.
And so the challenge psychologically is I don't need, this isn't urgent. This thing I'm doing, like, if you guys closed the shop for an hour and then went and did some testing on different cakes you could make that might bring in more customers from all over the city, that's not urgent, right?
No, yeah.
So your brain is wired to be like, no, that's not important. But it is important.
Yes.
Could be a game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah.
And so that if you put a dollar figure on that, well, what if you had an endless stream of customers, like, out the door? What would that be worth? Thousands of dollars an hour, right?
Yeah.
And versus what is it worth if I just bang out an hour's worth of coffees? Hundreds of dollars an hour?
Yeah.
Versus thousands of dollars an hour. The difference is one is really easy to access.
Yeah.
One is almost baked into our DNA, and the other is much more challenging to access and to get into that frame of mind.
So you could say urgency and importance aren't mutually exclusive. They're sort of, they're two separate kind of principles, and they're not, the same thing, essentially.
Yeah, it's that, like, slowing down to speed up.
Yeah.
But we...
To kind of change gears, yep.
Yeah.
It's the essentialism philosophy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I read that book.
Correct, amazing book,
Yeah, just bang on.
Yeah, it's one of my top 3 of all time.
Oh, what are the other couple?
From a psychology and marketing perspective, Robert Cialdini's Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, is an amazing book. I recommend anyone reads that. Essentialism I love. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Oh,
it's a book on negotiation.
Yep.
Is an amazing book. Really love that. Last year, I read a book called 10,000 Weeks. That was an amazing book. I think it's Oliver Burke.
Oh, yeah.
On time.
Yep.
What is the 10,000 weeks? What sort of time frame does it signify?
80 years of 50 weeks. Is that right? 8 5?
Something like that.
4,000 weeks.
Yep.
4,000 weeks. Maybe it's not 10,000 hours.
Gee.
10,000 weeks. But nonetheless, great book.
I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah.
That reminds me, there's a poster that you can buy of your life. Sorry, this is a little bit of a sidetrack.
Yeah.
There's a poster you can buy of the weeks of your life, and
Yes.
it has, 1 to 100 or something, and they cross it off. So you can just look at it, hang it up on the wall, and see how far you are through.
It's like very stoic.
Hardcore. Yeah. Yep.
It's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah,
So
Ryan
cool,
Holiday has those rings
Yeah.
with the Memento Mori and I forget what he has.
Amor fati or something. I can never say the
words, Latin,
but it's like accepting the fate and saying yes to it.
I thought he had a ring or something with ashes from or stone from the Colosseum or something in it.
Is that right?
He's got some
full on.
I forget what it is, but
Memento Mori, which is just remember you're going to die.
Remember you're going to die. Yeah, He's skulls everywhere.
Every day. Yeah, man.
Yeah, just think about your mortality. Which
Wow, I should get a skull for the cafe.
Yeah, man.
Not a real one, of course, but
it's interesting because I think the one thing I notice generally with business owners is they're not lazy. Laziness is not the problem.
no.
Like, if you look at if you surveyed 100 business owners, they're going to be the ones doing big hours, not shortchanging themselves. No. And so responding to doing urgent and important stuff is not where the issue lies. It's usually that they're going too fast in a way, and so reframing that to go.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the All Blacks before a game? They'll, or when they're in training, they'll be passing the ball and practicing their moves, but they're walking at walking speed.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
Yeah, and you're like, what the hell are they doing? They look so weird when they do it as they're walking. But the reason they do that is because they're drilling into their minds that these are the intricacies of the move, and then gradually as they speed up, that's when it becomes a isn't the army have that saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast?
Ah, right.
What would be the acronym for that? I don't know. Some weird
I don't
acronym.
The army guys do love acronyms.
They do love the acronyms. But it's a great principle.
Yep.
It is.
And actually, if most of us, we make bad decisions when we're going fast, not good ones, generally. And so slowing down and actually getting above everything.
Yeah.
And getting into that frame of mind where I'm thinking about my time differently, and in terms of I like to tie a dollar figure to it, because if you're thinking, if you know that every time I make a coffee, someone can do that. That's a $20 an hour task, $25 an hour, whatever minimum wage is. That's a $20 an hour task. But if I'm designing new recipes, if I'm working on a podcast, if I'm updating my business plan, that stuff potentially pays you in thousands of dollars an hour, not tens.
Yep.
And so naturally, that's the game as a business owner is increasing the value of the return on your time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Did you have to change your own thought in regards to that type of thing? Because ultimately, you're running a business yourself.
Yeah.
So you're able to practice these theories on yourself, basically.
Yeah, eat your own cooking.
Yeah. So was that a hard one for you to kind of find, or do you have as some abilities kind of naturally lean towards that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm lucky that in a sense that my dad, as I was telling you earlier, was a perfectionist in the practical things. So growing up, like he had the saying, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing properly.
Yeah.
And so we'd often work outside and on a Saturday, and everything he did there was a way to do it.
Yeah.
If you were mowing the lawns, you didn't just you didn't just bang around.
Yeah. I bet you loved that as a kid. Or
yeah,
no,
you can imagine what.
But sometimes it can create a bit of tension.
It was I mean, I didn't love it, and it used to frustrate the hell out of me. But
but after a while,
you're
like, this makes sense.
Our lawn looked amazing every week,
exactly,
because there was a way to do the edges. There was lines that had to be made. You didn't do squiggly lines; you did straight lines, and so that kind of thinking was baked into me from a pretty young age. And then Mum, not so much with the practical things, but more with people and with conversation. She had definitely a way of doing things, a way of talking, a way of speaking with people, and so I think that's definitely been baked into my thinking. When I started business, that kind of translated. I probably naturally worked on improving all aspects of it from the start. What I wasn't prepared for was that I was improving lower level things. So, for example, I'd spend hours and hours and hours working on a document and then never use that document with a client, or use it with one client and then never use it again. So it wasn't that I wasn't improving stuff, it was just that I wasn't improving the right stuff. That's been a slower...
That's a non-essentialist activity there, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. I wish I had read that book before I started.
It's a bloody good one, eh?
Absolutely.
That's quite a short book, isn't it? I might get it.
Like 250 pages or something.
Yeah. I actually read that book every year. I think it's kind of timeless.
It's not a book you just read. You keep coming back to it. Like,
you don't read that and implement everything.
No, true. Yeah.
Or like any good information.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, have you got any kind of cool success stories that you're able to share with us? Like, any clients sort of stand out to you? I mean, you don't have to name them specifically, but
Sure. Yeah. Heaps. One of my favourite ones is Dan and Mike. So Dan and Mike run a glazing business, and Dan and Mike are a father and son team. Mike's actually just retired from the business after 40 years, but Dan's a rugby referee. Referees at a really high level, and so. The cool part about it is that they're basically an example of how two different ways of thinking and running and operating can have drastically different results. And the first time I met Dan and Mike, we actually got funding through this was through COVID. One of the good things about COVID was they got funding through Regional Business Partner Network to do some work with me, and they were tossing up, do we spend it on marketing or do we spend it on a coach? They ended up working with me, and the first session we had is called an alignment. So we kind of talk about the big picture and where they're going. We build their first plan and get the business aligned with where they want to go personally. And after that session, then we book our regular coaching session.
Yeah.
And so talking with Mike, and so I said, Mike, when do you want to buy? Or when do you want to book the first session? And he goes, how long is it? When is it? What time of the day? And I could tell he was getting stressed by the question. And I said, okay, well, how about 4:00 on a Tuesday? And Mike was like, and I could see his brain like ticking over. He's like, well, the thing is, we need to be in the office to answer the phones. And Dan actually challenged him on it. It was like, well, come on, like if we can't get out of the business for an hour, then there's a serious problem. And Mike was stressing out, and then he's like, okay, let's just do it. And fast forward to so we've been working with each other for a couple of years now, and Mike's just retired from the business, so he's no longer working in it at all. When we first started, that was a pipe dream. Like Mike retiring was like, he didn't even believe it was possible. And what's been cool along that journey is seeing him scale back from 5 days and never being able to leave the office to, you can get away for 1 hour. You can get away for half a day. You can get away for a full day. You can get away for 2 days a week. And seeing that shift, and his mentality shift away from what it has been, which for 40 years has been turn up, answer the phones. He's, as you can imagine, when you've been working in a business, man, those look good and smell good. Cheese scones, can't beat them. And just seeing his mentality change around that, and the business in that period is up. Just a shade under about 40% in terms of turnover. Yeah, their profits gone up mass. I won't give you numbers, but
no, but yeah, cool.
But their profits up massively as well in line with that. And Dan, who's running the business now, he's in his early 30s. His next 30 or 40 years compared to Mike's, and Mike's like stoked for him, absolutely stoked for him, because he looks back on his time and is like, well, it could have been so different. But he's just bought his when we first started, this is cool part actually, when we first started and we did that alignment process, we do this exercise called the target process. And the target process is this idea that if you hold up 5 things and I say focus on all of those things, your eyes start to get blurry, right? If I hold up one thing that represents the 5 things, it's a lot easier to focus on it. And so we kind of, in the goal setting stage, we build out this process of one thing, a scene or an object or a moment that represents you having achieved all of these things. And Mike's thing was his target was them being in the Sounds, the Marlborough Sounds, fishing, and it's the sun shining, the fish are biting, the water's cool and blue, the wind's blowing through, and then they drive back from their boat onto at their batch, and they cook up the fish they've caught, and there's kids running around and shouting and playing, and Mike's describing this scene, and then he just recently bought the house that was in his scene when we did that exercise. Yeah, cool. With the exact view that he described in this process. So that was like I don't know, from a coaching perspective, that was just that was like yeah. To see that kind of stuff happen is amazing. So Dan's future is going to be totally different to what Mike's is. Yeah. But in that short period of time, just seeing how much things can change when you commit to
that move from just being so uptight that you couldn't leave the office because someone might call up. Yeah. I've seen people like that running their own businesses. It's just awful. You can just feel that that stress coming off them. So just that move to like having an hour off and how that sort of amplified into owning his dream house in the Sounds. It's like, man, that's tremendous, mate. Like really tremendous.
It is.
And look at the run-on effect into the next generation.
That's the cool thing, right? I think, that's the opportunity that we have in business for everyone is the impact of, and that's one of the most rewarding things for me is being a small part of the process is seeing when an owner shifts the way they're operating, the impact is not just on them, it's on their team. And then a better owner, manager, leader means for a team that has a better culture, a better experience with their leader, and that then flows out to their team's family, because the way we operate at work, the way we feel at work, translates to the way you come home at night.
Heart out, it lifts up everything.
Yeah, and even you guys, like you
communities,
think, exactly the community that you're serving here. If you have a bad day and you're grumpy with the customer, or if you're feeling shitty about how your business is running, then that has an impact on the people around you.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And vice versa, the inverse is true as well. If your business is thriving, it serves all of the people around you.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of impact that you can have as a business owner is massive.
Yeah, that's cool. So how many clients have you got at the moment?
Good question.
How many can you cope with?
So about 20 is kind of the
ideal,
the number for us. I think we're about 16 or 17.
Yeah, because I can imagine, investing that energy and time into each person.
Yeah, it's like, I think there's different models, and there'll be lots of different coaches that have more or less. For me, it's I like to know I like to work more rather than less with clients. Yeah. And some people have a different model. Some people, don't follow that format. But that's just the way I think. I'm rather less but deeper, rather than more and shallower. At some point that we'll grow the team, but in the initial stages has just been me growing the base. And
no, that's cool. You'll get a really good feel for it. And you offer like a 15-minute kind of little catch up with someone and sort of find out what's going on. Like, what does that consist of?
Yeah, generally, if someone wants to work with me, and whoever it is, I'm always down for a coffee. Like, so long as it's a long black, as we talked about, not a flat white. I'm always happy to catch up with people that want to speak. But usually if we're going to work with someone, then we do a strategy session with them, and spend a couple of hours, just downloading what's going on in the business and where the opportunities and challenges are, and if I can help, then it's usually pretty obvious. If not, then I can usually put them in touch with someone who can. The Business Mentors are a great organisation. But generally, we do a strategy session with them, and then we show them a couple of our tools and frameworks, and go from there. But
I remember watching like Gordon Ramsay, coming in and changing the restaurant culture, or Tabitha Teach Charge in the hairdressing industry, or whatever, and just being fascinated with how clever Gordon Ramsay is, or Tabitha. And she, they know their stuff, and they come in, and they're incredible at picking personalities, strengths and weaknesses, the culture. And they go, this is what you need to do. And so much of the time, the people don't do it. Yeah. And like one of the biggest blocks is self-denial that I could see. Yeah. They couldn't see what the hell's going on. They didn't want to. They got some sort of deeper self-hatred driver or something. So is that in behavioural intelligence you're talking about?
Yeah, and that's probably something that's changed for us in the last couple of years. Is I've done a massive kind of deep dive into the neuroscience around behaviour, and so one of the things we do a lot more of now is around behavioural intelligence and using a tool called actionCOACH. So what it does is it's a tool that maps the way you organise information, and you'll notice when you organise information in a survey or in a personality assessment or something like that, that you find yourself putting certain things at the top or certain things at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll find yourself doing that consciously. Like after a while, you start to be aware of, like, so if I'm if I walk into a messy room, I'll find myself like, I want to tidy up the room before I sit down and do my work. And it doesn't matter if I walk into 100 rooms or 10 rooms, I'll generally do that before I sit down and do my work. And some of those patterns are actually strengths, and we don't want to change them.
Oh. So you just thought straight away, oh man, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, that saying, our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses.
Oh yeah, true. I haven't heard that one in ages.
There's like a shadow side to every strength we have.
Yep.
And so some of those changes are actually, some of those patterns, those ways of organising information are actually what make you special as an individual. And so we don't necessarily want to shift them, but then sometimes they do get in our way. And when they do get in our way, you know, for example, one of the things that I learned when I first did my behaviour map was that I had low past. So in terms of my decision focus, I would think about the future and the present, but I wouldn't think about the past. And so the danger in that is obviously that you're not learning the lessons from last week, last month, last year. You're just always going forward in the here and now and the future, but not actually learning. So from a process perspective now, Sophia and I have a weekly start, stop, carry on meeting.
Yeah.
And at the start of that meeting, the first part of the meeting is looking back on the things that we carried over from the last week.
Yeah.
And so it's a procedure that forces me into a behaviour shift to look back and learn. And every week I'm like, oh yeah, we still haven't done that.
At least you're aware of it, what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. So from a behavioural perspective, those there's an opportunity for all of us. And you know, if I ask most people what behaviours do you need to shift, what do you need to do differently, might be a simpler way to say it.
Yeah.
Most people can say something that they need to do differently, right?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
But what we're not aware of is what is the thinking that's underpinning that thing that you're doing.
No, yeah, I can see that in myself. Yes. Straight away.
Well, how the heck do you get to that?
Yeah, and that's where this tool is super helpful, is because it allows you to drill down into. So for me, maybe I was spending, like I told you the example of how I'd spend ages working on a document, and then if I'm not regularly looking back to see how many documents I've reworked within an inch of their life, then I'm just going to keep doing that moving forward. So this is a tool that helps you narrow down on some of those behaviours, and in the context of business, those little thinking shifts can stack up to make actually a massive difference in your business. One or two behaviour shifts can create a vastly different business for all of us. Tied back to we're talking earlier about the future. When you work on things that are not urgent but important, you're creating
totally
a different
it's
business.
It's probably almost absurd when you look back at some of those behavioural things that we do have, not knowing the reasons why we do them, but just because we just do them, unlocking the key as to why and the thinking pattern.
Yeah, and some of them are that's the other thing, is that some of the behaviours that are holding us back are actually blind spots. You don't know that you're doing them. You don't know that you're organising information that way. So, I mentioned that environment thing. Like, for me, I wasn't aware of that I was motivated by the environment, and that so motivated by my environment, and that actually was a requirement, a mental requirement for me I had to have the environment a certain way before I could start working.
I see. Yeah.
So the moment I'm aware of it,
yeah,
it instantly loses some zing, some
kind
power.
Takes
away the this
there,
thing out.
There was I think it's called the Johari window.
Yes, the Johari window.
Johari.
Yeah.
So you got the known, unknown, and all this.
I'm not super familiar with that, but
I'm not
I
super
know the
familiar.
concept.
But I was looking over it the other day. Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary for Defence under George W. Bush in the Iraqi invasion, he was talking about the unknown knowns and the known unknowns. I don't know the exact phrases, but he made a big word salad of it, and he became kind of famous for it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Stuff that what's going on for me, which other people can see, which I don't know, or all these known unknowns. Anyway, there's a thing, Johari window.
The Johari window.
Yeah,
look it up afterwards.
Yeah, but
do you reckon there's a danger falling into like those cliche kind of sayings, like you don't know what you don't know? Can we get too many of them in our lives? Have you ever met a client that's full of all of the too much? I don't know. I was just thinking about it when you said that, and what does happen quite often is it is a word salad.
If it becomes a platitude, if you understand the ground meaning of it, then it's effective, I would assume. Because it's not all just drivel, it means something.
No.
But if you just turn it into a word salad, then it's just an empty nothing.
Yeah,
so,
I suppose.
You can do that
over time that happens with a lot of things. Yeah.
But I guess you got to keep an eye on that.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In cooking, like I spent a bit of time as a teenager making pizzas at La Porchetta.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
One of the guys that ran the restaurant made 2 pizzas for me one night, and he put pineapple and mushrooms on a pizza, which is like, why would you do that in the first place? Just that was it, pineapple and mushrooms. And then he did this Works pizza, which is like everything. And he cooked these pizzas and he gave them to me afterwards. He's like, I want you to taste them both and tell me which one's better. And I was like, man, I hate mushrooms. And mushrooms and pineapple is a terrible combo, but that actually tastes better than the Works, which was on the menu. Pineapple and mushroom clearly was not. And he's like, what's the principle? Less is more.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time I actually got that. Like I actually got from a less is more.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so that's a cliche, right? Oh, less is more, less is more. And so imagine you're a chef, Milton, and you walk around every day and you come in and out and people talk to you about food and you're like, I know all these cliches, less is more, and always caramelize your onions or whatever the cliche is.
Yeah.
But you don't actually ever cook anything where less is more. You don't ever make a sandwich that's only got 2 ingredients.
Yep.
What's the point in the cliche?
Yeah, true.
It's just like things we know versus things we know versus things we do. To me, that's the danger. It's not the danger's not in the cliche. The danger's in are you doing
applying it
and applying all the things you know.
Yeah,
like I'm always going to remember that pizza analogy. That's freaking great.
Yeah,
that is cool. That's totally cool.
Pineapple and mushroom.
Sounds terrible, man.
Don't serve it up.
Speaking of pizza, what would you like for breakfast?
Oh, mate, I haven't even... Here we go. Now all of a sudden you guys are like, is there too many ingredients in it?
I know, I've got an egg on toast. How about that?
Egg on toast.
1 egg.
No caramelised onion either.
I was thinking about our 3 eggs the other day, and I still love that. Yeah.
What's the 3 eggs?
The idea behind 3 eggs is most people think 2 is not quite enough.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
3 eggs. Let's do
3
that
eggs is pretty solid, mate. On a bit of honey Vienna. Good way to start the day. Do you want them poached or scrambled? I recommend poached. But
poached, yeah. Cool. I feel like poached, because that's the test of a chef, right? The poached egg.
It is. It's one of the, if you're like a chef or cook entering a kitchen, that's a good test. It's like make a couple of eggs.
How do you do your poached eggs? What's the secret?
I just like put them in the water really gently.
So it's the flick of the wrist.
No, not a flip, mate. It's just a bit poncy. Just like put them in nice, gentle.
Yeah. Vinegar?
Some people, you can put vinegar in the water.
Do you though?
I do if I'm in a rush, but I don't always. Like if I know I'm in a rush, I'll put vinegar in just to make sure it works out. Yeah. Because that pulls the egg together a bit.
Yeah. Salt, because I've heard...
Yeah, I put a little bit of salt.
You do put a bit of salt.
So it's a bit of salt, a bit of white vinegar. And just... But the main thing is just having the pan starting to bubble at the bottom and then break it in.
When you say bubbles, so this is important. Do you mean like a big rolling boil? Important. Or you mean like a little...
No, starting... Like little tiny bubbles. And they get a little bit bigger. Nowhere near a rolling boil.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the taxonomy of bubbles.
This is good. We're into poached egg theory.
So you've got these little bubbles.
This could go viral.
On the pan. Section. Yep. And the pan's starting to smoke, bit of steam. So you can probably put it in the end, because if the bubbles are too much, it's going to push the egg around and pull it apart a wee bit.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Some people do a swirl.
That's right.
I've never found that works out great for me.
No.
Not if you're in a rush. Not if you're doing 3 eggs.
You can still kind of do it.
You can do it with 3 eggs?
Some people seem to do it. It just doesn't work out for me. So I just do the way that I know works out really good for me.
Exactly, yeah.
Good.
And that's just putting it in gentle. And if you put the egg in without the bubbles start going, it'll stick to the bottom of the pan.
Yes.
So you have to have the bubbles going. Yeah. So that's the basic...
Not too many bubbles, but...
Yeah, that's the basic bubbleology of poached eggs.
Wow.
David's fascinated.
Cripes, I never knew there's so much to it.
Bedtime story. It's like riding a bike. You never do until you try and explain it, and then you go, I don't know how the hell I'm doing it.
You could literally write a mini story or thesis on that one.
You could.
Totally.
Tie it into science and all sorts of...
it's definitely hardcore science, yeah, man.
What was your middle name again?
Charles.
Milton C... What's your
Kirk.
Milton C. Kirk. That sounds like a Star Trek name.
Well, it's a little like Arthur C. Clarke, how you just said that. It's got that science
Milton C.
Yeah, or Captain Kirk.
Milton C. Kirk's theory of poached eggs.
Yeah, we were thinking of putting out some tea towels, actually, and Peter was thinking of doing like different ways to cook eggs on the tea towels, because then it's right there in the kitchen with you.
It's very, and I mean, we're the brunch generation, so...
The what?
The brunch generation.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Brunch has been a thing until millennials.
That's true. Well, cheers, Marcus. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Great
Looking forward to my 3 eggs now.
Cool.